Hi, and welcome to Books in Action. My name is Larry Petraccaro, and I'm here with my co-host, Jen Latimer. And we're lucky tonight to have with us Keisha Miller from the South Orange Public Library, Beth Halliday from the South Orange Public Library, and Emily Witkowski from the Maplewood Public Library. And we're going to talk about the summer reading program. And that's actually something that I've done with you guys for quite a number of years. But this time, you know, instead of talking just about the mechanics and the sign up and the prizes and how you keep track of the program, we wanted to talk a little bit about the book list, the reading list, how it's developed, what its impact is on the kids, how the librarians can actually help you if you're looking for anything particular, and what impact the reading list and the summer reading program may have on that feared summer slide that we all hear about that happens when kids are away from school for a few months. So with that, we're going to talk about the reading list. So Jen, maybe you could give us a little bit of idea about that and how we'll put it together and everything else.
So the summer slide seems to be a very academic term that we use, but I was actually curious, like when you all are from your angle of like coming from the public library, do you think about that particularly, or like does it enter into like the thought process about this like loss of learning over the summer?
Well, every time, you know, we do the school visits, which we are not able to do this year, but I read this years ago, that if kids don't read over the summer, and I always share this, you probably remember that when they start school in September, it takes them till Thanksgiving to catch up to the kids who've been reading over the summer. So that, I like to share that because it makes sense to a kid instead of they're saying 3 months. I'm like, September, your first day of school, guess what? All the other kids are going to be learning, and you're going to be struggling. You're going to be not doing much till Thanksgiving in terms of retaining and learning new things. And they always seem to appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think some of it too, I know especially when we do like the middle school and high school list, is encouraging them to read, because the summer slide is in the back of our minds, but we know it doesn't matter if they don't want to read anything that we put on this list. Mm-hmm. So it's just making it as exciting as possible, that there's something they want to read and identify with that is going to encourage them to keep reading too.
Right. Anyone, do you want to answer? I didn't mean to cut you off.
No.
Okay. So I guess like when we think about the list this year, it's been another unique year, mm-hmm. and full of, you know, lots of things we're getting used to. Mm-hmm. Has there been any other like thought into like how we pick the books for the list? So for the audience, we do this collective list together, right? So all the mm-hmm. school librarians get together. We have a day where we get together with all the public librarians, and we try to brainstorm out like all the, I don't want to call them the best books, but like the widest kind of collection of books we mm-hmm. can to engage all the readers. Has this year and what's going on in the world like affected that, do you find?
Well, I think it's really helpful to have this partnership between the school and public librarians, and that, you know, as a school librarian, you know, we can rely on them to give us in real time, this is what's really popular, this is mm-hmm. what the kids are really interested in. And then from the public library perspective, we can say, oh, you know, this is what we found that they're interested in. You know, we are South Orange and Maplewood, but as a public library, we have kids from neighboring communities, and so that will diversify the collection even more. Speaking to, you know, the unique year or years we've been in, we do, going back to what Emily said, we do, as far as the middle school and high school list, middle school list is called Choices, and the high school list is, the last couple of years, we've just chopped it down to the top 30. We do try to have books that reflect the readers, particularly the readers in our community. So social justice is always top-notch, political or any kind of movements, mm-hmm. just family traditions and orientations, you know, trying to keep up with that in terms of contemporary or realistic fiction. So we really do try to select things and suggest titles. I have to be clear on that, because mm-hmm. this is not required reading. Mm-hmm. It's a suggested list that our readers, as far as middle school and high school students, are going to be reading. And we do the same with children's titles as well. You know, we want the kids across the board to have some books that they're going to want to read.
Right.
You know, we can't force them. We can only engage them, and that's our job. Once the school's let out and the school librarians kind of move on over, I always tell parents, you know, school's closed, but we get all the kids at the public libraries.
Right.
And so we try to engage them as best as we can.
Well,
I did bring that question up. I read it this afternoon about has the reading changed for the children. in my experience, and I did ask Shanice, who's, my assistant, I said, do you think the kids' interests have changed, or are they going for different titles since the start of the pandemic? We were like, nah, wimpy kid, bad guys, dog man. They rule. They have pre-pandemic, and they are still, favorites.
And these are
the
books
top.
that gets kids through. We
Yeah.
talk about reading. We were just, before we started the show, we were talking about classics and, books that we grew up with or that were on our summer reading list that we didn't necessarily want to read. And so Dog Man and
Wimpy Kid.
and
Bad Guys. And these are they've been favorites forever. And, there might be few other titles that we try to, add to their pile, but
Well, books should be an
They
escape
just- they-
too.
yeah,
so
they-
I think that's
exactly.
it for them. Yeah.
I
Well, I
call,
will say
I call
the-
it their comfort reading.
The early feedback is tremendous, at least in the elementary school. We started this year taking the lists and projecting them on the board and talking about the books and book talking and showing them the covers. And one class in particular, one fourth grade class, they all kept saying, "Do you have paper? Do you have paper?" And I was like, "Why do you need paper? We're looking at the books." They all were making their own mini little reading lists.
Oh,
Wow.
I love
Which
that.
was like super cool, and I was like, okay, when I do this lesson with the next class, I'm just gonna have paper on the tables. Because then and then after we did it, then they compared their lists.
Love
Did I
it.
miss anything? And I said, well, great, good news is, here are all the places the list is available, right? On our school website,
Right.
the district's website, the library's website. I'm gonna have it posted until we leave school here. Like, it's going to be a lot of places, but there was a lot of excitement. So I'm sure there's gonna be some kids showing up your door looking for some of these titles, which is good early feedback. So I know we have a lot of books we brought today, and I would love to maybe take a moment to talk about some of them. If there's any favorites you have, any reasons why you think. I get emails all the time at the school. What should my kid read over the summer? So, and I'm going to be transferring those questions basically to you. So we talk about that for a few minutes.
Sure.
Awesome.
I do really stress that though when parents come in. I say this is recommended, but
Yeah.
your school librarian, Mrs. Latimer, and I and the other librarians, I want the parents to know that this was a real effort, and that we thought really hard about what the kids would like to read. It wasn't just going to book reads or
Right. No.
Amazon's best. This is really
This is hours.
Right.
And actually really months. I feel like we
Right.
start talking
Yeah, I
about
was
this
gonna say we
in
kind of all
March.
have
Right.
farm lists that we start once the sort of new publication years start and everything. And I see Keisha brought the Music is History book. It's on our high school list, and I was really excited about that because I think kids love to read sort of above what their intended audience is sometimes, right? So we always like to throw on some adult books on the high school reading list because that's what a lot of our teens want to read. So a variety of nonfiction, fiction, pop culture, science, all of that kind of
And isn't
stuff.
Questlove now an Oscar award winner
Yeah,
for
I guess
his
so.
documentary, which
Yes,
is
he is.
fantastic. So now that's another reason we should read it.
Yes.
We have E.B.'s Boys book here, Star Child, which is, I believe, on 2 of our lists.
Yes.
So we have a few titles that cross over, which is, kids will sometimes say, but that's on the other list.
Right.
And I said, well, books aren't made for one student and one
Well, that's
grade.
true. I do have to explain that to the parents. It's
Yeah.
okay if
Yeah,
their
they
interest is to cater to, then
Right.
yeah.
Or
yeah.
books are written for 5th to 8th graders.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there's this crossover. 4th to 7th is a big kind of swing in the book industry. So it's very popular. Books can be very popular over many years.
Yeah,
and
the list is not linear
No.
in any way.
no.
So
Yeah,
I'm
and even
excited.
often 8th graders will tell them you can choose between the middle school or the high school list, right? Same thing with those sort of cusp years of whatever you're gravitating towards or you feel like your ability is, go with that. It's
Exactly.
again, these are suggestions, they're choices, they are not
Right.
required.
I mean, I noticed, Keisha, did you bring this one back here? Can we talk, or did
Emily did.
Emily, can we talk about this? I mean, I've sort of told kids, I'm like, you need to read some Jason Reynolds, right? Pick one of his books, right?
We have another one over there too
it's-
for the high school list, I think,
Yes.
right?
I said it's he just sort of speaks to children,
Yeah.
and I love his personal story. I always like to tell kids he didn't like school, he didn't do well in school, it wasn't his thing, but he's dedicating his adult years to write to that child,
Right.
which isn't that great to have somebody who wants to represent you.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about that book as well.
He actually just extended his term as the.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
so
He
excited.
extended his term as the National Ambassador of Young People of Literature. So that's even more of a reason to, be inspired to read about someone who, as we call it, reluctant readers. Going back to the list, they are suggested titles, but read whatever you'd like. And if you want to challenge yourself, you can do that too. So Jason Reynolds is on the elementary list as well as the high school list.
Something I love that you just said about the reluctant leaders too, and I think it's something that we've realized over time as we've done this list, is how we design the list. Like I'm seeing like Keisha printed out the choices, and I know you have a list of the intermediate one too. And it used to just be a list of titles, like legit just words, and that was it. And now we're like, the covers are there for a reason, right? They speak to the people that are reading these books, so we really should put them forward. And we have direct links to the ebooks and the audiobooks to make it as easy as possible for people to access these things. So we really try to get it as accessible as possible.
Today was fascinating. The third graders could not get over the links to the public library on the PDF. They're like, what do you mean? Where does this go? And I said, well, let's click on one. I happen to be logged into my account for Maplewood Library, and it said that you could just borrow it that easily. Do I need to pay for it? I said, no, but you should probably speak to a parent because, it's connected to their account and you need to log in. And I can just do this, and I'm saying yes, and they can see how many copies were available. So it was not my intended purpose to have this long, drawn-out conversation, but they couldn't seem to, get enough, and they were like blown away by this ability, to again read in one more place.
Yeah.
So.
And it's designed that kids can read anything, anywhere. We always tell them that, whether they're books in print or they're, I'm glad you brought it up, audiobooks, ebooks. We both have different
these are
platforms where
don't
kids
go out
can read.
as often anymore. People are not going on car trips yet, as often as they were years ago, and cars don't have CD players, but they still go out, so it still counts. And you can listen, what do we say, on Alexa? If Alexa's telling you a story, that counts for summer reading. Are we drifting into that area about what counts for summer reading?
Oh, we can always drift in there.
I will say one thing that changed, I think, since the pandemic, I have more parents asking me for books to read together,
Okay.
for read-alouds, like as a family. And so then you go into a different direction in terms of, you're not going to read Dog Man together.
Right.
Right.
That's a tricky one.
That's a tricky one. So I think then they want to read things that they remember reading when they were kids, like Charlotte's Web. They want to read to the kids, and some more of the classics that they feel like maybe the kid isn't ready to read on their own, but they'd like to read to them.
I hope that's a good thing that comes out of this time that we've been in, that
Right.
there is some sort of shared experience.
Right.
We read the Peter H. Reynolds book today, My Table, which if you're familiar, if you've read it, it's like, about the table shrinks and then the table disappears, and it's all in this purple until the little girl wants to rebuild the table, and they come back together as a family and they share a meal together, and all of a sudden it's color. And, and I said, is it interesting that they literally, like, the table just vanished? Like, no, Mrs. Latimer, that's not what it means. It means that they weren't spending time together. And I was like, well, there we go. I'm so glad you picked up on the symbolism. Makes me really happy. So I'm really happy. I'm glad we talked about the list today. We spend so much time. I'm not sure everybody appreciates how much time we spend, nor do they need to always think about what we do. But we spend all this energy to create a great list.
Right.
So.
And I'm sure Maple does the same thing. I mean, we have all the books pulled.
Yeah, we pull them.
They're on a
it's
big
easy.
card.
We
so
really
they're right
try to
there.
make it easy.
Yeah, the list is hanging off the side.
We're going
And-
to take a quick break.
Yeah.
And we're going to then talk about the mechanics of the actual program, if that's okay with you. So stay with us. And we'll be right back. Thanks so much. Books in Action.
It's an onion.
Hi, I'm Jen Latimer with Books in Action, and we're back here with Keisha Miller, Beth Halliday, and Emily Witkowski from both South Orange Library and Maplewood Memorial Library. And before the break, we were talking about the actual list, kind of how we come to create this sort of collaborative collection of, I don't know, sounds like a good sentence, but of titles and suggestions for students. And now I want to talk a little bit about the actual, like the theme and some of the events, like some of the activities that we want to get kids excited for. So what is this year's theme, ladies?
Yeah.
Oceans
there's
of
Beth.
possibilities.
Oceans of possibilities.
That's church right there.
Walking advertisement.
Everybody is going to be wearing one of these. All the staff at SOPL is going to be wearing one on opening day, right?
Yes, oceans of possibilities, and so
Every
Yeah.
year the state has a different theme, and so you're not required to follow it, but we always either follow it literally or, use it as a jumping off point. I happen to love the ocean. I'm a Pisces, so I'm all about oceans of possibilities, and we'll tailor some of the programs to go along with the theme.
yes.
But, so you're probably wondering, how do I get involved with summer reading? It's really easy. On Monday, January 20th. Okay, and all summer long, you can come to the library, and I guess I should start off with, you can join both libraries' programs, but Emily will talk about Maplewood's programs. But you come in and you get what I call a reading log, which is just a fancy way of saying a reading list. And you're going to start, as soon as you get it, go home and start writing down the things that you're reading, and you're going to add to it all summer. And when you read and decide it's time to come to the library, you're going to come to the library and show us what you've been reading. It doesn't have to be a whole book. It doesn't even have to be a book. It could be a magazine. See, look, I got penguins, ocean, right? You can read a magazine. You can listen to something. I do love mermaids, too. Oceans of possibility. Anyway, you're going to show us what you've been reading. We're going to initial it, and then if you remember in the past, we have, is it in here? The coupons where you remember the bucket. Coupon is in there. You pull out the coupon, and there's an image on each coupon, and it relates to a shelf in the children's room. I know this sounds confusing, but when you come in, we'll explain it all over again. We'll explain it every day you come in. If you can't keep track of it, and you're going to get a prize. Everybody gets a prize. In the back, you write your name. We have a weekly raffle. The businesses in town are really generous, and you could win a bagel from Sunny's, a pizza from a trattoria. So it's a prize a day, or maybe you might win a prize at the end of the week. We might call you and say, yeah, you're going to go to the trattoria. Mom doesn't have to cook tonight. Programs, we'll hand this out to, I think we're going to drop these off at school. These are all the programs that we'll be having over the summer. There's lots of things happening. If you remember, we used to have movies on Fridays. We're going to be able to do that again. We're going to have story times, arts and crafts. Our first day is going to be, like every year, we start out working in the children's garden. Kids will get to do planting. They'll get to do some arts and crafts. We're going to have a performer come later in the day. That'll be our kickoff. So you can come to that day and participate in that program, any other program in the summer. There's no sign up, just show up. And you can sign up any day over the summer. We go through almost till Labor Day. Just signing up, reading, prizes, fun.
And if you're going on vacation or you're going away to camp, you can keep reading while you're, on vacation or at camp, and you just bring your reading log in when you come back. And you show us what you've read, and you can collect your prizes that way.
It's always a popular question. Always.
Yeah.
I said, no, just go talk to them.
Right.
They will explain it all.
I do remember another popular question was, I don't know where the library is, right?
Yes.
Kids get nervous. So the brochure has all the contact information on it. Now you always say, ask your grown-up. I bet your grown-up knows where it is, near Dunkin' Donuts. Oh, yeah, we know Dunkin' Donuts. Okay. So, yeah, Maplewood has way better landmarks. We have Dunkin' Donuts.
Well, Maplewood's different right now too, because our main library is closed for
Right.
construction.
Right.
So our Hilton branch is our kids and teen location. Everything's running out of there for kids and teens. And it's not too different from South Orange. So kids can sign up starting June 27th is our first day. and we're going to have programs every week. The only difference really is that we do it based on time spent reading. So kids can enter how much time they've spent reading in 15-minute increments. We have a Google form they can do it, so even if you're away, you can still do it virtually, or you can come and pick up a paper submission and submit all that time you spend reading, and each week there's a prize, and then we usually do grand prizes at the end, and similar for teens too. It's all kind of based on the same model for everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, are you doing the Create Camp this
I
year?
am. I'm doing the Create Camp. So that is a STEM DIY based programming. So we do woodworking, cooking, sewing. Each week is kind of a new skill, and it's something that you get to bring home with you at the end of the day. So there's registration for that for teens. And I know you do your volunteer program.
Yes, I may have to come over for some life skills. But in South Orange, we have the volunteer program, which is open to students in grade 6 through 12. And, before the school year lets out, we always have orientations, and kids can go to that and then learn more about what their expectations are of the program, as well as what their expectations are of me in the library. Running the program, I'm happy to say it's the 13th year that we've been doing this
pretty
program, so it's
amazing.
really, really, really amazing. And talk about the theme, Oceans of Possibilities. The possibilities are endless. We have the children's program, the teen program, and also the adult program as
I
well.
was just going to say, we haven't talked about that. Yeah.
We're all youth services librarians, and it's not to be confused that the summer reading program is just for kids. It's also for adults. And similarly, in South Orange, adults can read, and they can also enter for a chance to win a prize. My colleague, Michael Pucci, runs that, and he's really good at it. So I encourage adults to read. Read by yourself, read with your kids, read as a family, and participate in the programs. There's really no sign up for children's programs, but with teens, because we're in a unique year, I did start to implement some sign up for different programs just to kind of get a sense of who's going to be coming, so I can better prepare for that. So teen programs, there will be some sign-ups. Same thing for adult programs. We're happy to work with local businesses to bring in not only the prizes, but some of the programs as well. So we're looking forward to that.
Are there any events you want to highlight, Keisha? Like any speakers, anything happening in the teen world that is, because we do like to engage, Emily and I have talked about this ad nauseum about like how do you get teens to continue to be engaged. Like the younger ones are just not as hard, but they older and they develop their own sense of what they want to do. So how are we engaging them this year?
So we have some prizes that are from some local authors who have signed copies of books that we'll put together as a grand prize. But we're also going to be having some author visits. Amelia Kahaney is going to be joining us as a part of our Special Conversations program, which is run by fellow librarian and author Laura Sims. So it's a YA author, but it's for an adult program, so we're hoping to do that intergenerational mix. So Amelia Kahaney is going to be here for discussing her latest book, All the Best Liars. But also Melanie Conklin will be joining us for her forthcoming title, A Perfect Mistake. There'll be a book release or book launch. So those are two things I'm looking forward to for YA. But we're going to have, like Beth said, story times, an American Sign Language story time. That'll be interactive.
I will make sure to announce that because my children, we read a book and it had to do with sign language, and then it was, and also there was a reference to Braille, and the amount of energy around that topic was just, it caught me off guard, right? And I was like, okay, well, we have some books, but we don't have that many books, so we really need to also think about that, expanding our collection to include,
Yeah, definitely.
updated titles.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just like not to go back to the list, but just like the list, we try to be inclusive in the programming that we offer at both libraries. And so, our standard, library discussion, book groups and creative writing, those will continue, but like Beth said, we're going to incorporate the theme into some programs, arts and crafts and teen DIY things.
We're having the Essex County Environmental Center come. They come every year. They're going to do something called Amazing Water. Which I think you know more about that program. They're going to.
Yeah. They're going to be doing that program, Amazing Water.
Oh, I know what I want to highlight. No, this is a group that came last year. We're going to have jugglers come. They were unbelievable. They're called Jersey Jugglers.
Okay.
They're a group, like if you all wanted to learn how to juggle, they meet once a month in Morristown. You just go and you join them, and they teach juggling. And they came to the library last year, and the first thing one of the jugglers did was pick up a chair, a wooden chair, and toss it up on his nose. And balance it on his nose, and I thought he doesn't have to do anything else
Right.
after
Yeah,
this.
he's got us all. 10-minute
He got
program.
us all.
Yeah.
But they brought, balls and scarves, and we were all juggling or trying to juggle. It's way more difficult than I
Balancing is
realized.
a life skill.
Yeah,
Yes.
it is.
Yeah.
But they are coming
Figuratively
again,
and literally. Just
it
it all,
was
yes,
the
balancing.
best program last summer.
But I
And
think the beautiful thing though about these two towns is that they can do programs at South Orange and at Maplewood. Like it's a nice compliment.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
we all try really hard to kind of offer them on different days and different times so that they can do all of that.
Right.
Which, because I know we do our story times on different days, and I know we try to do some evening programs for family participation of evening art programs on Wednesday evenings. I know is something that our children's librarian Jane Folger is really focusing on, and we do, my colleague Amalia does these really cool zine programs called Anthology, where it's sort of like encouraging kids to write and express themselves,
And writing is a part of the summer reading program, correct?
Yes. So writing counts as reading. I know we always love to talk about this.
I
The
do
things that
remember
count
that. It's
as
a big
reading.
question.
Writing counts. Listening to a podcast counts. This is
Right.
something that Keisha and I have talked a lot about. I even think about watching documentaries as something that counts, as included on our middle school and high school
I was going to
list.
say that was on the list.
Yeah.
Again, just reminding kids that like podcasts and all that engaging in literacy that way is like a really good life skill.
Yeah, I always say anytime you're encountering words like that, I count that,
Yeah.
And that's a lot of our programs are about that too.
Excellent. Well, I'm already like thinking about things that I want to stop by and see, and maybe have to add the juggling, even though that makes me slightly nervous. Beth.
no, it's fun. It was. I mean, I didn't really get to juggle anything. I was a complete klutz, but I really appreciated everybody else really trying. Little kids throwing scarves in the air.
So, do we have the sense of like, because we're short on time here, we're like kind of wrapping up. About how many kids participate? Do we keep the
Oh,
list
yeah.
of about how many every
yeah.
year?
Yeah. It's been an interesting few years, I think, probably for all of us in terms of numbers and stuff
Right,
like that. I was looking just before we came here, and last year we had around 600 just kids.
Okay.
That doesn't include all the adults and teens and all that stuff. And that was kind of low. And I mean, that's coming out of this
Right.
pandemic and all that stuff. But I mean, normally it's hundreds and hundreds of kids, teens, and adults. And each year, I think the teen and adult programs are growing too, which is great.
Right.
And
I think
I
we
know
had
you
like
guys have
700.
similar.
Like 700.
okay.
It was lower than.
Well, here's hoping this year, 2022,
Right.
with
Oh,
our
Big year.
possibilities and oceans and
Right. That's
all that.
right.
And in light of like what's happening in the conversations in the world, which our teens, especially our teens, are very much connected to the earth and what's happening in their part in like keeping it a healthy environment. I'm hoping that like thematically it'll tie in and we'll get some of the kids to come back to the library. I know there's a lot of like, I feel a lot of the parental fear, but it's easing now. So we're getting there, and I'm really excited.
We are
Well,
too.
yeah.
This is really exciting.
It's a long time in the coming.
I know. I feel like we talk about this for a really long time, and now it's like time to like put our work into the world,
Right.
and then we get to nicely step back, and you get to spend
We'll see
time with
you
our
in
students.
September.
Yes. All right. My name is Jen Latimer, and this has been Books in Action. I want to thank our guests, Keisha Miller, Beth, and Emily Witkowski from the library. Sorry, Beth Halliday. Sorry, I was like skipping last names. And thank you again for joining us, and happy reading.